All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
I'm behind it, I'm behind it. Hold on.
Inside! Keep moving!
Up the stairs, come on! Door down! Stay close, keep moving. Safe in here? Wait up. Everyone listen up. We're inside the shelter now. Sit tight, stay calm. Keep moving!
Stop checking the flight boards and start checking the balance sheets. In under 120 seconds, the unthinkable just happened. They didn't just hit a target. They completely severed Israel's connection to the global economy. Ben Gurion International Airport is dark. The runways are critically compromised, and the Iron Dome just faced its most public failure to date. Watch this. Here are the receipts. 12K HOR M SHAR for delivery systems, the exact saturation payloads we've been warning about overwhelmed the defenses. The result: 73 aircraft permanently grounded on the tarmac, including the entire ELAL fleet. We are looking at $12 billion in direct asset losses in one single night. The runways. Engineers say they need 6 months of reconstruction before a single commercial flight touches down again. It isn't just an isolated incident. It has become an island. As an analyst who has watched these regional tit-for-tat games for 20 years, let me tell you why this is different. This wasn't a random event. It was a surgical removal of infrastructure. They neutralized the fuel depots, the air traffic control tower, and the primary runways simultaneously. But here is the ultimate leverage point: insurance. Lloyd's of London just pulled coverage for any aircraft entering that airspace indefinitely. Even if you fix the concrete, no one is flying into an unsecured zone. The aura of invincibility just vanished. Look at the ripple effects. This shutdown is costing the economy $3 billion a week. No tourism, no foreign investment, and the supply chains for high-tech exports are frozen. This was the eye for an eye response to the 2006 Beirut airport closure, but executed with 2026 precision. The regional power balance hasn't just shifted. It has been rewritten. Deterrence is a thing of the past, and the financial bill is arriving in real time. So here is the real question. Is this the end of the startup nation's economic era, or can they find a way to reopen the skies? I'm reading the smartest comments below. Give me your take. Follow for the urgent part 2 on the global insurance fallout. Now.
At 2:47 in the morning on March 14th, 12 Iranian ballistic missiles struck Ben Gurion International Airport on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. The attack lasted less than 2 minutes from first impact to last. When it was over, Israel's only international airport was no longer operational. 4 missiles hit the main runway, creating craters up to 15 meters wide and 5 meters deep. 3 missiles struck the aircraft parking areas where 73 commercial and military aircraft were stationed. 2 missiles hit the fuel storage tanks, igniting fires that were still burning 18 hours later. 2 missiles struck Terminal 3, causing structural collapse. 1 missile hit the air traffic control tower. 89 people were killed, the majority of them ground crews, overnight maintenance workers, and passengers sleeping in the terminal waiting for early morning departures. 234 people were wounded. Ben Gurion International Airport is completely closed. No flights are landing, no flights are departing. All international air service to and from Israel has been cancelled indefinitely. The country's only major international airport has been destroyed, and Israel is now severed from the global economy in ways that no military response can quickly reverse. What happened at Ben Gurion this morning is not simply a military event. It is an economic and strategic rupture whose consequences will compound for months, regardless of what happens on the battlefield. You need this analysis before the markets open. To understand the full weight of what happened, it is necessary to first understand what Ben Gurion actually represents to the Israeli economy. Because this was not a strike against a military installation. It was a strike against Israel's connection to the outside world. Ben Gurion handles more than 20 million passengers annually. It processes the overwhelming majority of Israel's international passenger traffic, cargo operations, business travel, medical evacuations, and military logistics dependent on civilian air infrastructure, tourism revenue, foreign investment flows, emergency supply chains, and the basic projection of national stability all run through this single facility. Israel has no equivalent alternative. There are smaller airports at Haifa and Eilat, but neither can accommodate wide-body international aircraft, Boeing 787s, Airbus A350s, the aircraft that carry the passenger and cargo volumes that make international connectivity economically meaningful. They are designed for regional turboprops and smaller jets. For wide-body international operations, Ben Gurion is the only option that exists. That geographic and infrastructural reality is the strategic context without which the attack cannot be properly understood. Iran did not destroy one of several options. It destroyed the only option. The repair timeline tells the full story of the economic disruption ahead. The main runway craters, 15 meters wide, 5 meters deep, require excavation, compaction, and repaving with reinforced concrete capable of bearing wide-body aircraft loads. Runway repairs alone will take 4 to 6 months. Terminal 3 sustained structural collapse when 2 missiles struck the building. The entire terminal will likely need to be demolished and rebuilt, a 12 to 18-month project. 73 aircraft wreckages need to be cleared from the aprons and taxiways before normal operations can resume, a 2 to 3 month process involving cutting burned aircraft into sections and removing the debris. The fuel fires from the storage tank strikes have saturated sections of the airport with aviation fuel that has soaked into the ground, requiring environmental remediation before those areas can be safely used again, adding another 3 to 4 months to the timeline. The optimistic estimate for reopening Ben Gurion is September 2026. The realistic estimate is January 2027. Israel will be without a functioning international airport for a minimum of 6 months and potentially up to 10. Now, to the question that defense analysts are already examining with urgency, why did 31 interceptors fail to stop a single one of the 12 incoming missiles? Ben Gurion was protected by 3 Iron Dome batteries positioned around the airport perimeter. Those batteries were fully operational on the night of March 13th. They detected the incoming missiles. They fired 31 interceptors. Not one interception succeeded. The failure was not random, and it was not a malfunction. It was the result of a weapon system specifically engineered to defeat exactly this kind of defensive response. According to preliminary IDF assessments, the 12 K-bar Shikan-4 missiles approached Ben Gurion from multiple simultaneous directions, not from a single vector, but from several different approach angles at once. Each missile carried a cluster munition warhead that deployed 10 submunitions during terminal descent. That means 12 incoming missiles became 120 separate targets at the moment the warheads opened. The Iron Dome system tracked the incoming missiles and attempted to engage them, but the K-bar Shikan-4 submunitions are specifically designed to defeat interception. They maneuver unpredictably during descent using GPS guidance and control fins. They deploy at altitudes low enough that the Iron Dome has minimal engagement time remaining. And when 120 submunitions arrive simultaneously from multiple directions, the defensive system's processing capacity is overwhelmed. It cannot generate and execute engagement solutions fast enough to address the volume. Not one missile was intercepted. All 12 reached their target zones. The submunitions struck the runways, the terminal, the fuel storage, the aircraft parking areas, and the control tower with a precision that the IRGC described as designed to produce maximum operational disruption and maximum economic damage. On both counts, the objective was achieved. This is the same cluster munition problem that this channel has been tracking since the IDF's own admission that approximately 50% of Iranian ballistic missiles in this conflict have carried cluster warheads. The defensive mathematics of a single incoming warhead become the defensive mathematics of dozens of independent maneuvering submunitions the moment the casing opens at altitude. No currently deployed missile defense architecture anywhere in the world has the simultaneous tracking and engagement capacity to address that volume. The Iron Dome's failure at Ben Gurion was not a system malfunction. It was a demonstration of the operational ceiling of a technology being tested against a threat it was not designed to defeat. The aircraft losses at Ben Gurion represent one of the largest single-event aviation losses in recorded history, and the financial cascade flowing from those losses will extend far beyond the value of the aircraft themselves. El Al, Israel's national carrier, had 23 wide-body aircraft on the ground at the time of the strike, Boeing 787 Dreamliners and Boeing 777s, each valued at approximately $300 million. 23 aircraft at $300 million each represents approximately $6.9 billion in losses for El Al alone. But the financial damage extends considerably beyond the replacement value of the aircraft because those 23 planes constituted essentially the entirety of El Al's long-haul international fleet. The airline has not simply lost aircraft, it has lost its capacity to operate international routes. El Al now faces bankruptcy. Foreign airlines suffered parallel losses. United Airlines had 7 Boeing 787s on the ground. Lufthansa had 5 Airbus A350s. Delta had 4 Boeing 777s. British Airways had 3 Airbus A380s. Air France, KLM, Turkish Airlines, and Emirates had a combined total of 12 additional aircraft parked at Ben Gurion, waiting for morning departures or having arrived late and scheduled to depart the following day. When the missiles struck the aircraft parking areas, the fuel tanks of those aircraft ignited. Wide-body aircraft carry tens of thousands of gallons of aviation fuel. When that fuel burns, it burns at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. Aircraft structures melt. Everything inside burns. By the time fire crews could respond, the aircraft were total losses. The Israeli Air Force also lost 19 military aircraft stationed in a section of Ben Gurion used for logistics and military transport operations. F-15s in maintenance, C-130 transport aircraft, and smaller military planes used for reconnaissance and communications. Those losses degrade Israel's air transport capacity and reduce the number of airframes available for combat operations at a moment when that capacity is already under sustained pressure. Total estimated losses, 73 aircraft destroyed. LL-23 aircraft, approximately $6.9 billion. Foreign airlines, 31 aircraft, approximately $4 to $5 billion, depending on aircraft type. Israeli Air Force, 19 aircraft, approximately $1 to $2 billion. Combined estimated losses, $12 to $15 billion. That is the largest single-event destruction of aircraft since September 11, 2001, when nearly 300 aircraft were destroyed or damaged across multiple American airports. The insurance cascade flowing from those losses may ultimately prove more strategically significant than the physical destruction itself, because it will determine whether Ben Gurion can function as an international airport even after the physical repairs are complete. Aviation insurance operates on the foundational principle that catastrophic events are statistically rare. An attack on a major international airport that destroys 73 aircraft in a single night is not rare in the actuarial sense anymore. It is a demonstrated and repeatable threat. Insurance companies are already recalibrating their risk models for Ben Gurion. The signals coming from the insurance market are unambiguous. Coverage will not be provided for aircraft operations at Ben Gurion unless Israel can demonstrate reliable protection against ballistic missile attack. Israel cannot currently demonstrate that. The Iron Dome just failed completely against 12 missiles. Netanyahu's own public statement following the attack, "We cannot guarantee it will not be hit again," confirmed what the insurance market already knew. El Al faces an insurance claim of $8 to $22 billion for its destroyed fleet. That would be the largest single aviation insurance payout in history. The insurers covering El Al are already indicating they will not renew policies for any replacement aircraft operating from Ben Gurion. That means even if El Al had the financial resources to purchase new aircraft, it could not insure them. Without insurance, the airline cannot operate. El Al faces not just financial losses from the strike itself, but an insurance-driven operational paralysis that will persist regardless of when the airport physically reopens. Foreign airlines face identical calculations. The insurers who just paid out billions in claims for aircraft destroyed at Ben Gurion are telling those same airlines that they will not cover future operations there until the security situation changes fundamentally. If foreign airlines cannot obtain insurance for Ben Gurion operations, they will not return, not because they choose not to, but because they legally and financially cannot. Israel faces a scenario where Ben Gurion is repaired and physically reopened, but remains largely empty because no airline can afford the insurance costs of operating there. Netanyahu admitted this directly in his post-attack statement. "We cannot guarantee it will not be hit again." Every airline, every insurer, and every passenger planning to fly through Ben Gurion read that statement and drew the same conclusion. The historical parallel is worth examining because it illuminates both the strategic logic of the attack and the asymmetry of its consequences. On July 13, 2006, Israeli Air Force jets struck Rafik Hariri International Airport in Beirut during the Lebanon conflict. The attack destroyed runways and put the airport out of service for weeks. Israel's stated justification was that Hezbollah was using the airport to transport weapons and personnel. The international community condemned the strike as a disproportionate use of force against civilian infrastructure. 20 years later, Iran has executed the same strategic logic against Israel, and the consequences are considerably more severe for a structural reason that goes beyond the scale of the physical damage. Lebanon had alternative routing options. Damaged traffic could be redirected through Damascus and other regional airports. Israel has no equivalent alternative. Ben Gurion is the only airport in Israel capable of handling wide-body international flights. When it is closed, Israel's international air connectivity is not reduced. It is eliminated entirely. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed for 15 days. Iranian missiles have struck vessels in the Mediterranean. Land routes through Jordan and Egypt are slower and significantly more expensive than air cargo. Israel's supply chain is collapsing across multiple simultaneous axes, sea, air, and increasingly the regional land routes that were never designed to absorb the volume normally handled by air and maritime shipping combined. The weekly economic cost of Ben Gurion's closure is approximately $2 to $3 billion. Tourism revenue at $450 million per week, business travel at $200 million per week, cargo operations at $100 million per week, plus the compounding indirect costs of reduced foreign investment, cancelled contracts, and corporate relocations. If the airport remains closed for a full year, the total economic damage could exceed $150 billion. And that figure does not include the insurance cascade, the El Al bankruptcy proceedings, or the long-term investment deterrence effect of a prime minister who publicly acknowledged he cannot guarantee his country's only international airport will not be struck again. 4 hours after the attack, Netanyahu convened an emergency cabinet meeting. According to sources present at the meeting, he was presented with a retaliatory option: striking Imam Khomeini International Airport in Tehran on the principle of direct equivalence. Iran destroyed Israel's airport, so Israel would destroy Iran's airport. Netanyahu decided against it. The reasoning his advisors presented was straightforward. Striking a civilian airport in Tehran would kill hundreds of Iranian civilians and cross a threshold that would make it impossible to maintain international support for Israeli military operations. It would invite further Iranian strikes against Israeli civilian infrastructure. And critically, it would not solve the fundamental problem, which is that Israel cannot currently defend Ben Gurion against Iranian ballistic missiles. And destroying Tehran's airport does not change that defensive incapacity. The decision not to retaliate in kind reflects a strategic reality that the attack itself exposed. Israel can strike targets in Iran. It has been doing so continuously for 15 days, but it cannot currently prevent Iran from striking targets in Israel with the precision and penetration that 12 missiles demonstrated at Ben Gurion this morning. That asymmetry, offensive capability on both sides, defensive failure on the Israeli side against this specific threat, is the strategic condition that the attack was designed to demonstrate, and that no amount of counterstrikes against Iranian military infrastructure changes. Here is where the complete picture stands on day 15 of this conflict. More than 14,000 Iranian civilians have been confirmed killed since February 28th. 19 American service members have been killed across the region. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed for 15 days with no mine-clearing operation confirmed. Oil is above $115 per barrel, and now the only international airport in Israel has been destroyed by 12 missiles in under 2 minutes, with 73 aircraft burned, 89 people killed, and a repair timeline of 6 to 12 months before operations can resume, if insurers agree to cover them at all. 12 missiles, 73 aircraft destroyed, 89 dead. Ben Gurion closed indefinitely, $2 to $3 billion per week in economic losses. El Al facing bankruptcy. Foreign airlines unable to return without insurance they cannot obtain. Netanyahu publicly admitting the airport cannot be guaranteed against future strikes. And Iran achieved all of this without deploying a single ground soldier on Israeli territory. This is the strategic logic that the attack was designed to execute, not destroying military capacity, but making Israel economically unsustainable. Cutting the airport does not win a battle. It isolates a country, paralyzes its economy, and creates costs that persist for years after any ceasefire is signed. The military campaign and the economic campaign are not parallel operations. The economic campaign is the primary one, and the military campaign is the mechanism that enables it.